Hello and welcome to a new program, Account of Stewardship. Now, what is Account of Stewardship meant to achieve? It is meant to bring all past public office holders to account. On this program, we set the record straight. Whatever controversies and questions need to be answered, we will summon the public office holder and get their own side of the story. So if you wish, it's a kind of platform for the right to reply. My name is Mayowa Luabi. Don't go away, stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Account of Stewardship, the program that gets to hold all past public office holders to account. And on the platform today is the former governor of Kwara State, Alhaji Abdulfatah Ahmed, a private sector participant who also became a public office holder in Nigeria. So let's see how the story goes, what happened, how his tenure was, and his regrets. Don't go away, stay with us.
A brief biography of His Excellency begins when he was born in Kaduna in the 60s. Alhaji Abdulfatah Ahmed is a native of Share in Ifelodun local government area of Kwara State. He had his secondary school education at the Government College, Funtua, Katsina State in 1973 to 1978 and proceeded to the School of Basic Studies of Kwara State College of Technology, now Kwara State Polytechnic, Ilorin, in 1978 to 1980 for his A-levels. With a BSc in chemistry and an MBA in business administration from the University of Ilorin, he went further to acquire several other professional certificate courses from the Manchester City School of Business and the ELC London in 2004. He also took a public finance management course at the JFK School of Government, Harvard University, USA. His working experience before venturing into governance and politics started as a lecturer in organic chemistry and later acting head of department at Federal College of Arts and Science, Sokoto, in Sokoto State between 1986 and 1990. He then moved into banking, where he acquired his corporate business experience, first as an assistant manager at the District Savings and Loans, Lagos in 1991. He also worked at Society General Bank, Nigeria Limited, and then Guarantee Trust Bank. He was the senior manager, group head at the Society General Bank, Nigeria Limited, and the head of Institution Banking Group for the North at the Guarantee Trust Bank, GTB, in 2003. In 2011, Alhaji Abdulfatah Ahmed became the executive governor of Kwara State and immediately went into action with a transformation strategy that resulted in a wave of human and societal development projects and programs.
Hello and welcome to Account of Stewardship. Today on the program, I have a very vibrant young man who was a former governor of Kwara State in the person of Alhaji Abdulfatah Ahmed. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
So you had 8 years of leadership in Kwara State.
Exactly.
What was your tenure like? What are the legacies you left behind?
Thank you very much. You see, firstly, I saw governance as a platform for service delivery. And I went with a clear mindset of what I wanted to do for the people of Kwara State, knowing fully well what their revenue capacities could support. So I articulated my programs. I specifically said I was going to continue the legacies of the administration before mine, and it was very simple because I was part of that for 8 years. Okay. I was vantageously positioned as the Commissioner for Finance and later for Planning and Economic Development. And of course, all projects that were carried on then were things I was part of. So it was only natural for me to see those projects to completion.
Okay.
That I gave my promise I was going to do. And I said I was going to start new ones, which I said I was going to take to completion. And of course, I did a lot of emphasis on infrastructure, human capital development in areas of education, health, and I looked at areas of water supply, the improvement in electricity, and most importantly, I vowed that I was going to give a peaceful environment throughout my tenure.
Okay.
So by and large, I was able to see those things through.
Okay. Are there specific projects that you carried in your heart and you're very pleased that you were able to execute them?
There were quite a number of them. For instance, I had in mind that I was going to improve on healthcare service delivery, and I was able to bring 5 general hospitals across the 3 senatorial districts to, modern areas where we could see new things happening. I renovated them, made them current, because they served as the secondary level of healthcare service delivery to most of the clusters of primary healthcare service we had around. And of course, we improved on the schools, which we saw was very critical to human capital development. And most importantly, we were able to connect the communities at the rural areas with roads and other possible ways to ensure that people who largely are agrarian are able to have access to roads and markets so that they could improve on their economic lives.
Okay. That brings me to your background. You came from the private sector.
Yes.
Into the public sector.
Yes.
How were you able to blend these 2 sectors?
It was quite interesting because in the private sector, the goals are a bit different from the public sector.
Okay.
In the private sector, you are faced with goals that largely seek to optimize returns on shareholders' funds and make profit for the organization. Of course, you have corporate social responsibilities too that are tied to it. But when you come to public sector, it's about service delivery. It's about bringing maximum benefit to the majority of the people in terms of welfare and security. Okay. So like I said, the goals are different, but ways of articulating resources and applying them accordingly seem to have some levels of similarity. So I was able to see how you could, from a private sector perspective, use human and material resources to maximize shareholders' funds and make profit, and how in the public sector you are able to use revenues accruable to government to create goods and services to improve the welfare of the people and, of course, secure their lives.
Okay. So how was internally generated revenue under your leadership?
Yes, you see, it was one area that I worked on, and I'm very happy to say that today, that hitherto, you see, we've been used to relying on federally allocated funds. And like you see, if you check statistics, most states are, largely because there are so many untapped areas that states could support their internal generated revenues with. The state's internal generated revenue, as at when I took over, was at a level of about, I think, 400 to 500 monthly. And I saw the dwindling federally allocated funds. It became clear that the only way we could improve on the lives of the people and service delivery would be looking for new funds. And the only way we could get new funds was improving on internal revenue. So I quickly looked at the internal revenue institution. Yeah. I changed the people, changed the process, and I changed technology to drive the process. And that saw a new outfit coming up that significantly moved my revenue from a monthly collection of about 500 million to initially 1.7 billion monthly, and later on it grew to about 2.3 billion monthly.
Wow.
So that gave me a good headroom to improve on service delivery to the good people of Kwara State.
Okay. Now you came into governance on the shoulders of the former Senate President,
yes,
Dr. Bukola Saraki. So much so that you were branded his boy. Can you shed more light on your relationship with him and how it affected governance in Kwara State?
You see, firstly, Bukola Saraki was my boss in the bank because I worked briefly with Society General Bank before I actually went back to Guaranty Trust Bank. So we had known each other from the corporate platform. And when he became governor, he invited me to join him as the Commissioner for Finance, which I gladly did, because I had also been looking forward to getting public sector exposure. And working with him as the Commissioner for Finance was one of the best places to give me the desired exposure to see how the public sector is run. Because in the Ministry of Finance, you have like a one-stop shop to see everything happening in government, ranging from budget preparations to resource allocation, and of course, all other areas to do with execution. Okay. And he was an articulate administrator who ensured that rules and regulations were followed, and that gave all of us that were new a good head start in understanding public sector. And that was how we carried on governance all through his 8 years. And when the opportunity came in for me to go in as the governor of Kwara State, of course, I just took off from where I stopped as a commissioner, and but this time around as a chief executive, and we worked together. So by and large, we had a fantastic relationship, and he gave me guides. I sought his opinions where areas I saw were gray, because, of course, he had gone through it, and you and I know very well that there's no substitute for experience. So I had to seek experience and, advice in areas where I felt I needed to be guided. But by and large, everything I did in my 8 years as a governor, I take full responsibility, because I had the latitude to do things the way I wanted to do them in terms of service delivery of goods and services to the good people of Kwara State.
Okay, let me get specific here. It was rumored that even the commissioners were appointed by him, and every appointment was taken over by the former Senate president in the state, and his wife also reigned in as First Lady.
Unfortunately,
in capacities.
Unfortunately, it's not true. Wow. Because you see, we had a very strong internal democratic process, okay, to the extent that we looked at what was feasible and what was workable. In selection of commissioners, what we did was that we had 16 local governments, and every local government was asked to produce a commissioner. So, of course, he was not the one that would go around each of the 16 local governments to select people. Even if he had interest in people, it had to be with the consent of the people from those local governments. Because don't forget, politics is a thing you carry on willingly. It's not something that is done by compassion. And areas where people disagree, they usually came out to say, look, Mr. A, who is being proposed, is not who we want. We want Mr. B. And Mr. B is allowed to come in. So by and large, selection of commissioners and aides were largely done by the people, because their constituencies put their names forward. Of course, there were areas where I had specific interests, because those were areas that were very critical to my administration success, especially Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Works, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture. I made sure that I personally handpicked these people, because my programs were revolving around these areas. And I wanted people whose understanding would resonate with the policies and programs I had in place. And between you and I, and of course, Ministry of Education, between you and I, these were the people that I personally selected, but in conjunction with their constituencies.
Okay. We're going on a short break. We'll be right back. Account of Stewardship will continue. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Account of Stewardship. And on the hot seat is the former governor of Kwara State, Alhaji Abdulfatah Ahmed. So let me come back to you, Your Excellency.
Okay.
What are the challenges, and looking back in hindsight, what would you have done differently?
Really, the challenges in governance, okay, let me put it this way. You see, there are challenges would come either in governance or in politics. In governance, it had to do with the dwindling revenues that couldn't see you carrying on what you wanted to do. Of course, in politics, you see a lot of differing opinions, especially when we had to move from from PDP to APC and then back to PDP. It was quite challenging because it's not going to be too easy to keep moving people and constituencies as such, except you are able to really demonstrate the accruable benefits that came with those movements. It was quite challenging, and we saw it as one area we thought we could manage it better. But unfortunately, it came out the way it did, and that was why, our elections went the way it did. But by and large, I would say that we had to do it out of exigencies, because the exigencies of that time required that we change strategies to fit into new challenges. And it was quite tough, but thank God we were able to pull it through. Even though the elections did not come the way we wanted, but at least we were able to demonstrate that we had sincerity of purpose in what we were doing.
Okay. So that brings me to the question of continuum in governance.
Yes.
When you took over from Governor Bukola Saraki, you completed these projects and you initiated new ones.
Yes.
That is expected.
Yes.
Now, what is the thing with Nigeria at the subnational level? That when there is a change of party structure, or a party takes over from another party, all previous government projects is either abandoned, almost coming to a point of deletion. What's your take on that?
Yes, truly, it's one of the major problems that developmental programs are facing at subnational levels. Because we've seen it in the past where, just like you said, new governors will come under new platforms and they either abandon projects which had been carried on with public funds and which must have been adequately looked into before being executed, because they are designed to have specific ends in mind that will be beneficial to the people. It is necessary for us to begin to see that those projects are carried on with public funds. They are not personal funds. And each time a new administration comes in, he should see it as such. It's not personal. He must look at it from the benefit angle to the majority of the people. And where the need arises for changing those things to areas where they fit into current exigencies, we could actually look at it from that angle, rather than abandoning projects totally and in a way wasting public funds. And I usually feel sad when I see things like that, because I see public funds going into wastage. And I feel that we could do a lot more by looking at how those projects were articulated, what they were meant to serve. If they are not current, how do we bring them to current levels that will serve the people, so that we begin to see less wastages in public funds.
But what solution can you proffer for that? Should we enact a law?
It's more of
institutionalize the continuity of projects.
It's not necessarily about the law.
What is it?
It's about those who seek public offices should recognize that it is about service. It's not personal. And if it is about service, it is designed to serve the people. And if projects have been initiated to serve the people, then it is designed to be taken to completion. So to that extent, it's only normal to see that we expect an incoming chief executive, to look at those projects to the extent to which they are designed to serve the people and take them to completion levels. It doesn't require a law. It only requires you understanding that the job of governance is about service delivery. And it's about service delivery to the majority of the people. And if it's to this majority of the people, then we must begin to see how some of these projects fit into that. Where they don't fit in, we adjust them to fit in, so that we have less wastages in resources and time.
Okay.
Yes.
So that brings me to the question of leadership, now that we're talking about it. What do you see us using as a prerequisite for leadership in Nigeria? Having gone through the process yourself.
Yes, historically, I've seen that we've had a faulty selection process for leadership in Nigeria, because the most critical things that would make us see how to get the best leaders are usually put at the bottom. The things that are put at the front burners are not issues that will affect the majority of the people, i.e. issues of ethnicity and religion, sectional areas where people are from. They are completely irrelevant to delivery of goods and services to the majority of the people. What should play the most critical role in selection process is competence, acceptability, suitability. But most importantly, you must begin to see that when people are aspiring to come and manage malls, you look at antecedents, whether they've been able to manage grocery shops, they've been able to manage supermarkets, before you begin to talk of managing malls. Because experience is expected to be brought to bear in delivering goods and services at the national level, at any level of leadership. So as such, it is important that antecedents of success stories should be brought to bear in taking decisions, rather than looking at what section of the country leaders should emerge from. Because the moment you begin to look at sections of the country where leaders should emerge from, you have already compromised the person or the quality of persons that are coming in to lead. And that automatically begins to reduce the expectations. So each time, we make mistakes about our choice in leadership, we must recognize that every other thing that comes with it will be consequential on poor selection process. And one of the most important things that must be put into consideration is the issue of electoral process. Because the electoral process is one of the most important areas that must be put in place to reflect the will of the general populace. Because if you don't have that process where the will of the people is reflected, then you cannot expect to get results that people want to see in terms of delivery of goods and services. Once you are able to get a strong electoral process that would reflect the will of the people at any point in time, that is where good governance starts from.
Okay. Your Excellency, Nigeria is 16, and there's been a clamor for the restructuring of Nigeria. What's your take?
Restructuring, the way I see it, is a thing that should be given a serious consideration, especially if you look at the levels to which we have brought the country in the last 60 years under different political arrangements. We've had a parliamentary system, we had a plethora of military administrators, and now we're in the presidential system of government. By and large, we're still not getting it the way we expect to get it. Our people are still not as happy as they should. Services are still not as delivered as they should. So it tells you that two things are happening. The first one is that the structure that people are expected to use to deliver goods and services requires to be reviewed in ways and manner that it will make it easy for service to be delivered. The second one is attitudinal. We need to change, which is the most critical one. Our attitude to governance, our understanding of governance should go beyond just looking at it as a wealth-creating platform for potential elective officers. It should be seen as a platform for service delivery. And if we are going to restructure at all, we should structure in such ways and manner that, aspiring to these levels must be seen as a service delivery platform. And another most critical area that requires to be seen and requires restructuring is our institutions. We need ways and manners by which we need to strengthen institutions so that they will not be influenced by the administrative structures we have. Once institutions are strong, governance becomes easy because you get guided on what to do, you get checked on what not to do. And most importantly, you have specific areas where you cannot dabble into. So these are areas that are required to be done. You see, in terms of restructuring, it means so many things to so many people. For me, what structure Nigeria requires is not largely about geographical. It's more of governance, i.e. increasing levels of concurrence at different layers of government, i.e. there are areas that the states are not allowed to participate now. How do we improve on their participation in those areas? These areas will aid states in driving new revenue lines, which will improve their capacities to deliver goods and services.
Which areas are we talking about then?
Of course, you have aviation, you have the rail, you have the waterways, you have energy, you have solid minerals. These are areas where state governments can also run on concurrent levels to drive additional revenue that will aid them in delivering goods and service to the people.
All right, thank you very much. You've spoken well. Well, this is where we draw the curtains on Account of Stewardship. And I've been speaking to the former governor of Kwara State, Alhaji Abdulfatah Ahmed. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much.
Well, it's a wrap on Account of Stewardship today, and we've been talking Kwara State. The former governor of Kwara State, Abdulfatah Ahmed, has given account of his stewardship, what he did and why he did them, and looking back in hindsight, the things he would have done differently. Join us again in another interesting edition of Account of Stewardship. Let's keep holding our leaders accountable.